Hello, everybody. Hello out there in Houday Nation. Welcome to Men in Stripes, our Hello, everybody. Hello out there in Houday Nation. Welcome to Men in Stripes, our debut episode here, brought to you by StripeHype.com. Really excited for this project. We're getting started here. This is Tim Daniel. Big show here. Let's go ahead and introduce our excellent panel here also. Mr. Matthew Wilson. Matthew, how you doing out there?
Doing good, Tim. How about you?
Not too bad. Excited for this brand new project we're starting here. So to let everyone know what's going on, this is going to be the goal right now is a weekly 30-minute show where we're going to talk about the Bengals, latest news. We're in this project now of draft time, of draft stock time, Senior Bowl time, Pro Bowl time, free agencies coming up. So we're going to try to cover all of that as much as we can as we get ready for the 2016 season. So as we get started here, Matthew, let's kind of tell little people about us, where we're from, how we fell in love with this team. I guess I can start here. 26 in the greater Cincinnati area. Grew up a diehard Bengal fan. Earliest memories going to Riverfront Stadium with my dad. Had season tickets there for a little bit before Paul Brown. I vividly remember John Elway bringing the 98 Broncos to Cincinnati and beating us at Riverfront really bad. And that was like my first football game. But from there on, man, I was hooked.
Yeah, hey, I'm right there with you. 28. I actually grew up outside of Cincinnati, a place called Amelia, Ohio. Parents moved me around a little bit, but I never lost the Bengals faith, even though I was invaded by some Midwesterners for the Bears, and then of course I moved to Pittsburgh, and so I'm surrounded by Steeler fans. Fortunately, and I guess fortunately too, but. So my first real memory that I can say is constantly watching them on TV. Of course, grew up with Riverfront Stadium and fell in love with that place, even though there wasn't too much to fall in love with overall. But fell in love with the team and never really looked back.
Cool, man. Yeah, I mean, it's just even though it was not an ideal football stadium. Hell, it wasn't an ideal baseball stadium. It was, we grew up near and dear to my heart. I was there when they imploded the stadium. My dad and I went and watched the implosion, so that was very painful as a 14-year-old kid to watch that, because that's, my earliest memories, not just the Bengals, but the Reds too. So, yeah, it's definitely a huge part of their history there for sure. So with that being said, it kind of just say the background there. Some of the group from Stripe Hype, they're also going to come in here and there if Matthew and I aren't available, and they're going to kind of fill in, give their opinions, just join the show from time to time, so that'll be fun for sure. But let's get right into it, man. Start out off here, kind of talk a little about, this past season. 12-4, tied for the most wins in franchise history. We see Andy Dalton become just outstanding. I was one of the people that really believed that this was going to happen eventually, so I'm glad eventually finally came. Just the emergence of guys like Tyler Eifert coming in, you see what he can do in not even a full season, just how impressive he was. A.J. Green takes that next step. Marvin Jones back for a full year. When you look back at this season, 12-4, how great the secondary was. What do you most remember about that team?
Well, first and foremost, the 8-0 start was an incredible start for this team, and Reggie Nelson really emerging as kind of the leader for the secondary, coming out with 8 interceptions to tie for the lead in the NFL, as well as Adam Jones really showing what he's worth to this team, and George Iloka in a way felt like he stepped a little bit backwards, but at the same time still, especially towards the end of the season, picked it up and showed really why he's needed on this team more than anything. And, of course, injuries caught up to him a little bit more than what everybody thought, especially after going clean through the early part of the season. But overall, I think this defense really took a step forward. I think Paul Guenther did a great job in terms of bringing this team along. And I think that was a bright spot, not to mention what Hugh did on the other side of the ball with Andy Dalton and with the passing game. And unfortunately, the running game kind of took a step back as well later on in the season, but Giovanni Bernard showed a lot of promise, and then Jeremy Hill finally took a step forward towards the end of the season. So one of the guys was usually on top of things. There was a couple times they weren't, but when they weren't, that's when we kind of saw the Bengals. Unfortunately, their downside. When they were running for over 100 yards, I think a couple of the articles that were during the season, when they were running for over 100 yards as a tandem, they were winning games by 10 points or more. When they weren't, they were only winning games by an average of 2-3 points a game. So something definitely to look at next season.
For sure, and definitely something to look there too. Obviously, the big story this offseason is going to be 15 free agents. That number jumps out, obviously. Key players at that, guys like Marvin Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Reggie Nelson, George Iloka, Leon Hall, Adam Jones. The list goes on there, and I know we've done a pretty good job already on the site of kind of who should this team look for keeping, who should this team let walk away. So that's a very big discussion there for sure. When you look at this group, when you look at this 15 guys that were, oh man, who do we see on this team next year? Obviously, we're both going to say Marvin Jones. They need to do whatever they can to keep him. Let's take Marvin Jones out of the equation here because we know that we want him. We know that we want him to be WR2 again next year because he's going to be a hard guy to keep. He's going to be, one of the top 3 available free agent wide receivers out there. Who's the other guy you think they have to keep on this roster?
Oh, that one's tough. And I took to Twitter even yesterday, I think it was, or was it? It was Tuesday actually. And I asked the question, who was the top free agent? Of course, Marvin Jones came out on top, but it was surprising. A lot of people wanted to see George Iloka back, and being the second guy to be brought back after Marvin Jones, Reggie Nelson, of course, and then it kind of fell off from there. But George Iloka, I think, is kind of the heart and soul of the future of that secondary. Of course, Drake Kirkpatrick's back there, and Darqueze Dennard, hopefully he gets back pretty quickly next season. But George Iloka really has the ability to lead. I know Sean Williams is there just in case for some reason they can't bring Reggie Nelson. But that would then turn around, and I know we'll get there with the draft, but that would turn around and make drafting a corner maybe just even that more important, or a safety, even that more important. If they let Reggie Nelson walk, or if they even keep Reggie Nelson and let George Iloka walk, it will make safety a very important thing to focus on.
Yeah, for sure there. Obviously 2 guys you got to have back. I do agree with you. Having Sean Williams, even Darren Smith, who a guy like this team loves and is really looking to see what he grows into. There's a lot there. For me, I know I kind of wrote about this in my article earlier in the week. I kind of mentioned, I feel, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a bit, how I kind of said that I thought the Bengals should go forward and draft Will Fuller and try to keep the offense going. I still think you should try to get Mohamed Sanu back. I don't think he's, the 3rd-round pick that we thought he was going to be. I don't know if he's a game changer per se. But not to, go toward enemy lines here. With Mike Tomlin called him a Swiss Army knife. He is that. He's a guy you can line up in that wildcat situation. He's a guy you can line up in the backfield as a tailback. You can put him as a slot receiver. You can put him as your wide receiver. You can put him, there's a lot of different things you can do with him. Emergency quarterback being on that resume also. So adding weapons is kind of where I was going with that article. Even if you're able to get both wideouts back, I understand you have Mario Alford, in the wings there too, waiting out to come out. But there are a few guys that you really have to wonder what more they can do for this team. And I think that if you can bring Mohamed Sanu back, that would definitely be a huge part of this team as they continue to grow, especially with Ken Zampese taking over the offense.
And definitely I don't disagree with you. I think if they actually are able to get both of them back, there is a and I wrote this in the article that went up today, that our top 5 draft pick, or our top 5 draft needs. But there's a guy sitting at Georgia that some analysts are actually starting to piece together and say that he might be a little bit more like what A.J. Green is. And he would actually be a value pick because right now, according to CBS Sports, he's ranked for a 5th-round pick, and that's Malcolm Mitchell.
Yeah.
And so if they bring both of them back, I think it lessens the importance. And granted, I would love to see Will Fuller in a Bengals uniform because he is a great asset to whatever team gets him. But if they bring both of them back, I think they can drop down a little bit, and especially if Malcolm Mitchell is there in the late 4th, especially if he does well in the combine or if he does well in his in the scouting stuff that they do before the draft. But if he does well, obviously he may move up to a fourth round. But if he's there in the fifth round, he would be a great pickup, and even more so, somebody who has a similar style to what the Bengals are already used to with A.J. Green, and would be a great complement to that receiver core, especially when they go into shotgun formation, four wide receiver formations, and so that's somebody else I think that the Bengals can look at and keep on their big board down the line.
Yeah, and I certainly agree with Malcolm Mitchell. Did a lot of great things at Georgia. Shocking that an SEC receiver put up his stats went a little under the radar there. Think he definitely could play a big part there. And I agree with you. If you're able to get both those guys back, that definitely lessens that need of that big-time playmaking wide receiver there, and where you can wait a little bit, because as we figured out, there's no perfect formula to the draft. There's take a guy like Vontaze Burfict, who you get undrafted, understanding, had troubles there, one of the top linebackers in the game. Then you have a guy like, the Bengals are very keen on drafting these first-round corners, letting them wait, learn the NFL lifestyle behind these players, and then get their chance to play. But it pays off for them. The player development, you got to give Dick Tobin a hell of a job there. Let's look at this year, for example, too. Darqueze Dennard goes down. He's having a really good year in his spots there. Gets a couple starts at nickel, including the Buffalo game where he makes an awesome pick of E.J. Manuel. Really showed what he can do there. He gets hurt. Oh, man, they're in trouble. What's going to happen there? How's someone going to fill that fourth corner spot? In comes Josh Shaw. Josh Shaw does a great job. I shouldn't say great. Really good job of filling in that spot there. Leon Hall gets hurt. Josh Shaw steps up there, plays well there. Even Chris Lewis-Harris, a guy that no one even knew about. Really remember being on and off the team. In his chances to play, really stepped up and played well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And of course, the one big thing that they really do, and we found out how thin they really were depth-wise in the secondary when with safeties, both Reggie Nelson and George Iloka were both struggling injury-wise. And granted, that Sean Williams is a great back there, but they definitely, I think right now, and I put CB in. Of course, I said top 5. I really didn't have an order to my top 5, but corner is one that I think that they could do. But safety's another one, and granted, I know that they have some other needs in defensive line with Wallace Gilberry possibly leaving in free agency, and I think he's one of the guys that we kind of were on the fence sitting there going, should they keep him, should they just let him go? And I think ultimately we thought just let him go type thing, but you can also find some good guys corner-wise in free agency, and a big one that we've kind of focused on with Stripe Pipe is Morris Claiborne.
Yeah.
Guy out of Dallas, first-round draft pick, hasn't really had a great season. 2012 was his best, excuse me, but this season he kind of stepped a little bit back up, not where you want to see a first-round draft pick, and I think he got paid. I think he's gotten his paycheck that he's happy with. He's going to have to take a step back with his next contract. He could definitely be a value pickup in the free agent market if the Bengals were able to get their hands on him. And he'd be a guy that, when we talk about Adam Jones coming out of the ashes from, even though he was a young guy, when he was essentially suspended and was reinstated, I don't think we'd say reinstated because it was only a year suspension. It wasn't like he was kicked out of the league. But he came back in, the Bengals picked him up, and he did incredible. Terrence Newman, another one who kind of resurged himself with the Bengals. And so these guys, like what Adam Jones and Terrence Newman and even a little bit of Leon Hall, because he came over to us from Jacksonville, have done very well in the Bengals organization. Morris Claiborne may be one of those that you may pay a couple $1 million to show up, but could be a decent reward for it, especially if you can change him into what you've done with Adam Jones and those guys. So, we're not just looking at draft there for a corner. We may be even looking free agency for a value pickup like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to reset here, just letting you guys know, this is the debut episode of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com. Really good choice of name there, by the way. I really like that. I'm all for cheap puns.
Cheap puns work well, and especially when a classic movie comes on, and you kind of look and go, that would be a good name. I'm talking about Men in Tights, of course.
Next week, will I be a sneeze and you'll be a chew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
But we're definitely excited for this and getting this undergoing. It's something that I was trying to get the guys on board with a couple months ago, and nobody kind of had answers to. So I know you've only been with Stripe Hype for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we've already got this up and running. So very excited for that, and I know Connor, our other co-editor, is very excited as well. Although I think he probably would have preferred just calling it Stripe Hype, but yeah, he didn't get his choice in name, so he can just deal with it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I've had a blast there. It's nice to kind of have that. So, me, my background being that I've been covering Notre Dame for so long, and I've been really lucky to get a lot of breaks there. I was in the press box for Notre Dame USC game this year, which was amazing. So, yeah, I'm glad to bring that experience over here and kind of expand on my horizons for sure. So, I'm glad you guys gave me that shot, and I'm glad we can make this happen. Let's move forward here a bit. We've kind of touched on the draft and touched on free agency. We're going to be talking about that for months now until April, when everything's all set in stone as far as draft picks and everything like that. We do have a lot. The Bengals do have a lot of representatives hanging out in Honolulu this week, and you can tell that Michael Irvin's a big fan of this Cincinnati Bengals team. Apparently, by his picks, all he had, I think he got all of them except for Cedric Pierman, if I'm not mistaken. He got Whitworth, got Green, got Eifert, got Adam Jones. Obviously, Geno Atkins was one of his co-captains. So it's basically like Michael Irvin has the Bengals, a few other guys, and they're going against Jerry Rice's team, who has a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the NFL, there's no Steelers. All of them bowed out because of injuries or other things. So we're not going to fireworks. Darn. But no, Team Irving is Bengals and then a mix.
Right.
Sure. Cedric Pierman. I was trying to look for his name and I didn't see his name. I guess he's on Rice, but I never found his name fully. So, but definitely one of those that if I see Geno Atkins or Carlos Dunlap running at me, I'm getting down on the ground and I'm going into a fetal position because I don't want those two guys hitting me at all.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't think the Pro Bowl really wants many of those hits either.
No.
From what I understand.
Although Adam Jones is there, so we know there's probably going to be a little bit of talk and running of the mouth. So we can almost count on that. Hopefully he's mic'd for that one.
I did really appreciate his video he made with Amari Cooper yesterday, just to say like everything's cool after week one.
Yeah. Well, and Amari Cooper from day one of that incident had even said, it's the heat of the battle, and although. I think Adam Jones even came out and said I'm sorry in his own way about it, but Amari even said, listen, it's a heat of battle. Things are going to happen, and at the end of the day, you shake it off, and we're both all right. We're both good football players, and we got to move on from it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really liked just kind of like when you break these teams down. Obviously, it's the Pro Bowl, and you breaking a Pro Bowl down and putting analysis on it is utterly pointless, but for the love of God, we have another week till a major game, so we got to talk about something in that circumstance.
Yeah,
I am looking forward to it only because it is this idea. It's basically like when you put together the perfect fantasy football team. That's what the Pro Bowl is minus quarterbacks. Just because I think every quarterback that was selected except for like Russell Wilson just about bowed out.
Yep.
So you're gonna see.
Go ahead.
You're going to see A.J. Green and Julio Jones on the same team, like a fantasy football dream right there. You're going to see Todd Gurley in the backfield of that team. Like, I understand that it's probably going to be like a 60% game. That there's not going to be some big time down the line play makes. There's not going to be some Sean Taylor hit on a punter. But it's still fun to have that idea of it. I mean, even if you watch it for a quarter, I feel like you should definitely get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not a game that I'm going to probably stick around till the end, but see how the guys for the Bengals are doing. See if there's anybody that they're trying to take revenge on. The typical stuff there. But no, it was quite interesting to see that pretty much Irvin went to the Bengals, and so I don't know if he had Deion Sanders in his ear telling him who to pick, because Deion Sanders is boys with Adam Jones and the rest of the teams like but either way, thanks Deion for being in Irvin's ear and making sure that Carlos Dunlap and Gino aren't going after Eifert or AJ Green on the other side.
For sure, yeah. I know Darren Woodson seems to really like that Bengals team, and I know he was his the co-selector there, so that definitely played a part. But yeah, it'll be fun. I don't think it's really worth making a pick of a winner, obviously, but it is what it is there for sure. So yeah, I mean, with that being said too, one of the cool things that really jumped out to me, you kind of saw the coaches being interviewed. They did some media press there before the game, before the draft selections. And a quote that really stood out to me, I think Cincy Jungle covered it actually. They're asking Michael Irvin about Geno Atkins being one of his co-captains, and AJ Green came up in conversation, obviously. And he went as far as said that these two guys, the way they play, the stats they're putting up, the way the things they do, he's like, these guys are going to be joining me in Canton. They're future Hall of Famers. Curious when you heard that, when you saw that, what your thoughts were, how you felt about it. I know AJ Green's my favorite player. I'm not going to ever shy away from that. And I love everything he does. I know we finally saw that game where he really put the team on his back in the playoff game. Unfortunately, they still fall. But, yeah, I mean, when you look at the stats, you look at the numbers, there aren't many people who have done in 5 years what A.J. Green has done.
No, not at all. And, of course, my favorite player, and I'll be honest about it, is Tyler Eifert.
I can't go that route because of my other job.
Even though I'm an Ohio State guy, my favorite jersey still of all time is the AJ Hawk and I think Brady Quinn or whatever. His sister wearing a half jersey of each, because AJ Hawk was her boyfriend. I think they got married and now they're of course together. But I still think that's my favorite jersey of all time. Of course, Christmas is my favorite, so it fits, But Tyler Eifert, the way he plays, and especially when he's healthy, I mean, it's almost like he's another receiver. And although he isn't the size of Gronk, and he's not going to, basically run people over to the fact of where, he's a wall. He is very skilled, and that's one thing that I think the Bengals are very fortunate for. And if they can get Tyler Kroft up and running and get back that two tight end set, I don't know what Andy Dalton's going to do, because he's going to basically be confused who to throw to.
Yeah, and to add on to that thought, man, like I'm a little, maybe it's just me, I'm a little higher on C.J. Uzomah than most people. Not that I think he'll ever take Kroft or Eifert's spot, but to have 3 quality pass-catching tight ends could definitely be a nice thing to add, especially when you have, maybe 5-6 guys before free agency you can look at as pass-catching options on this offense.
Yeah, and as you wrote, I mean, the one thing that I think was actually kind of funny, you wrote the piece with Zach Ertz extension.
Yeah.
And looking at what Zach Ertz has done versus Tyler Eifert, it makes me kind of cringe for Eifert's contract to come due, because Eifert's done in one season pretty much what Ertz has done his entire career. So I cringe at that contract, but at the same time, for some odd reason, Philadelphia likes Ertz, and not to say that he's terrible, but there are definitely guys out there that I think are, especially even coming into the draft, I think are going to be great candidates, and they're putting their faith fully in Ertz. So, Tyler Eifert definitely deserves the contract that he gets. Hopefully it's with the Bengals, but at the same time, we still have another year, and of course we might even have another 2 or 3 years, because the franchise tag can be used. And as we found out with Gronkowski, his position is tight end, and so it will be based on the tight end aspect, even though he plays a huge part in the receiver. So looking forward to the next couple years with him, because even if he doesn't sign a contract with the Bengals, the franchise tag should come out on him.
Yeah, and I think it will. I highly, highly, highly doubt that Duke Tobin or any of those guys are going to let him walk and go somewhere else, because he changes that offense so much. And you kind of saw it, and this, like I said, when I wrote that piece, I even mentioned this is no disrespect to Jermaine Gresham. When you look at that year, Eifert's out. Gresham didn't get the ball rolling for this team. That's not be a sign of disrespect. That's not me bashing him in any way, though I do think he was a lazy football player at times. You don't see that from Eifert. Eifert is just that glue to that offense. I mean, in the red zone there, when it's first and 10 to 15, and the Bengals has got 15 more yards to go, you got to factor for A.J. Green. You got to factor for Marvin Jones. You also got to factor for Tyler Eifert, and you can't cover all of them. I mean, you can't double team all three. So he definitely gives you so many more options. You know, he can catch just about everything. I said before that I think the most important play of this season is in the Seattle game. Not that it was a touchdown Eifert scored, but a huge catch he has with Cam Chancellor all over him as they're trying to make that comeback. I thought that one play really solidified what this team was going to do that year, and we just saw that more and more from Eifert as the season went on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm one that I liked Gresham. I thought he was a good player when he didn't fumble the ball
Or hold.
Or hold. You know, that was kind of his other big thing. But we saw that a lot with this year, even with Whitworth having a little bit of a holding problem. I'm still excited to see him come back, because you know he's going to come back with vengeance. But at the same time, what I think that Eifert brings to the table is a lot more than what Gresham did. And Gresham found out how hard it is, especially when you do have those turnover numbers that he had and the fumble numbers he had, because he sat all free agency until finally Bruce Arians came up, and of course he had worked with Carson Palmer, I believe in his first season, if not his first two seasons, and so, you know, at least Carson Palmer had a little bit of familiarity with him, but you still didn't see the numbers with Gresham that you did in Cincinnati, to where they even showed that they trusted him.
I agree. I always joked that when Gresham was here, he was perfect if you threw it to him in the end zone or on the sideline. If he was in open field, you knew something bad was going to happen. Yeah,
and we definitely saw that in 2014 when they needed him most.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of mentioned Whitworth there, which kind of led to actually the next thing I wanted to discuss there. That's an interesting situation with Andrew Whitworth. Obviously, you see in the draft last year, they go and get Cedric Aboyehi from Texas A&M and Jake Fisher from Oregon. He was not shy about his feelings about that. Going as far as, make mention that he thought that maybe the paraphrase kind of made it seem like he thought he was getting outlawed, that he was going to be kind of moved on from. You do see the Bengals later give him a little bit of an extension there.
Mm-hmm. And
you mentioned the holding problem, which our all-pro tackle wasn't very all-pro down the stretch. Let's be honest here. If you watch that playoff game, go back to the second Steelers game, the first home game, when McCarron throws the pick six. Whitworth lets James Harrison blow him up, if you watch that footage again. So there's some things about Whitworth. I understand, age catches up to all of us, especially in that field, in that procession. How do you handle Whitworth next year? How do you handle his snaps with Aboyehi and Fisher? You're losing Andre Smith more than likely. What do you do for your tackle situation?
I think you do exactly what they've been doing, and that's in many ways, I think, a rotating line. And so even if you're pulling Whitworth and he's playing 75% of snaps and Fisher's playing another portion of that, I think you got to get these young guys reps, and Ogbue, I think, is the natural to take over for for Andre. But I think in a lot of ways, I think Whitworth saw this season how much faster the game is even getting from when he first started. And I mean, last year, 2014, he did a great job for the team, and he was probably the biggest Pro Bowl snuff in the NFL last year, 2014. I'm still going off of last year,
I'm with
16.
You.
But that in itself, I think, earned him at least one more year of contract. But by no means is he guaranteed the spot now with Fisher and Ogbui. At least guaranteed the starting spot. And I think this may be the year that we start to see him transition into more of a leadership role in terms of maybe coaching and training the young guys to take over. And whether he plays like James Harrison and then he is let go to another team to play out even another year after that. I think his time's limited in Cincinnati, and I really do hope he retires a Bengal and he sees that. But if he doesn't prove himself next year in the time that he's given, we could be seeing the end of Whitworth, as I said, hopefully in retirement, but if he feels like he can play another season, it may not be in stripes.
And kind of to go back on that, one of the articles, one of your points you made in your article today about the biggest draft needs, the tackle and guard play has been outstanding for this team. I don't think we've ever shied away from that. Zeitler just continues to make strides to be one of the best guards in the league. We still have some worries there about Russell Bodine. There's still some worries at center, and just what he brings to the table. Dalton getting on him. You saw the training camp clips where he was yelling at him about snaps being low. We didn't see too much of it this season, but we definitely saw at times we didn't need to see it. And one of the names you mentioned, and of course I can piggyback this with my other field and my other job there, is Nick Martin. And what he can possibly play in that situation. A guy like T.J. Johnson is still around, what he can play in that situation. So do you see them continuing to give Bodine the shot, or do you think they potentially may look at getting another option at center?
I think it all depends over the next few years. I think one of the big reasons why I named even Joshua Garnett, and I believe he's out of Stanford, but one of the reasons I named him is because he's a swing guy who has experience throughout his career in terms of kind of going to the outside, staying on the inside. He's been all around the line, and I think if you want somebody who is very football intelligent, Joshua Garnett is not a bad choice. And granted, I said if you're going to go for him, you have to get him in the third round if he's there. But he's somebody that is kind of like a Jake Fisher, where if you want somebody who is going to give your line depth with just one guy, he's that guy.
Yeah.
And so, again, talking how Whitworth is going to have to kind of earn his playing position after his play down the stretch, or his playing time. Joshua Garnett is one of those guys that could make the argument to helping that kind of rotation and taking some of those snaps away from those guys there, and maybe even playing in for Russell Bodine. And hopefully he has shown that he's gotten a little bit better as years gone on, and it is even from year to year. But if he doesn't make those improvements, if he doesn't step up, if he only kind of goes a parallel into next season, they could be looking at possibly moving on from him in the next couple of years. And as I said, Joshua Garnett would be that guy that would play in. Nick Martin's another one, but I think the issue you have with Nick Martin is, can you pass up the corner player, the wide receiver, to go and get Nick Martin, or a lot of it's going to depend on what they do in free agency.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple more bits before we close out this first edition of the show. Just kind of get your thoughts here. As we move forward, obviously we're giving continuous articles and coverage on StripePipe.com each and every week. More stuff to add. We're all contributing. We're all writing pieces, it looks like, quite a bit. Really proactive attacking this offseason. Some posts that you want to point out to some fans listening to the show for the first time, as they're getting used to the Stripe Pipe group and our product, what are some articles you think they should check out?
Well, one of the big things we're doing right now is all of the, all the free agent profiling right now that we're doing. I think we're through either 5 or 6 of them now. Mm-hmm. Connor's been doing a great job on those. I know I've thrown in a couple that I more prefer myself. We've covered a little bit on the new offensive coordinator, Ken Zampes, and what he's all about, where he comes from, a little bit of his background. So definitely some profiling right now. Of course, we have our top 5s right now going on with free agents and draft, and so definitely a lot of great content. as contracts come out, I mean, you wrote a great one on Zach Ertz's extension and what it means for the Penguins. You can expect to see more of those for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be putting those in each and every week, kind of giving our thoughts as we get ready for free agency and draft time. But yeah, that will be it for the first episode of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com, a fan-sided network. Thank you again for everyone who's been checking out the site. We're really excited about this project. Everyone enjoy it. We'll be back here, same bat time, same bat channel next week.
Well, we got to do one more thing, and that's close it out with our Super Bowl picks, too.
Yeah.
We didn't mention Super Bowl, and I know we got next week as well, but at this point, taking a look at the teams, what do you think?
Oh, man. You know what? Nothing would make me happier than Peyton Manning riding off into the sunset with a Super Bowl win for his last NFL game. Obviously, that's up for grabs. No one knows for sure if this is. Though, if you see that video with Belichick, it kind of makes you lead to think that way. Yep. But I don't think that's happening. As much as I love the Denver defense and what they do and how talented they are, how deep they are, so many skilled players. I mean, you can't, if you like football, you can't hate Von Miller with how good he is. Yep. I just think Cam Newton's on another level right now. To do what he's doing without Kelvin Benjamin, who we all thought would be his lone wide receiver target, basically just hoping to God that Ted Ginn Jr. looks like he's from Ohio, he's playing Big Ten football again, and to see what that defense is doing on the other side, getting guys like possibly getting Jared Allen back for the Super Bowl. I just think Carolina's going to be too much for him. I'd love to see Denver win. I'd love to see Peyton Manning get Super Bowl II, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm somewhat with you there. I would love to see. And Brian Urlacher said a great piece where he respects what the Broncos do, and that's clean. They don't showboat. They don't really do too much, especially with Peyton Manning. He's very very respectful, wants to play the game cleanly, and you don't see showboating from Peyton very much. I would love to see Peyton get one more, especially if this does turn out to be his last rodeo. Cam is a good player. I think he found his stride this season. I'd love to see the Broncos win, but it's hard. Josh Norman has been on another level this season, and granted, it's only been one season, but that he's really put up these numbers. But his dominance really could shut down Emmanuel Sanders, and that's something a lot of teams haven't been able to do. So I'm going at this point until something changes, and we may talk about it next week, but I'm going Carolina.
Yeah, I'm with you. But yeah, like I said, we definitely would like to see it go the other way. Represent the AFC well. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get that knocks us out there. Thanks again, everyone. We'll be back next week. Everyone enjoy the week until then, and a giant hoo-day.
Peace out.